Hello all, and welcome to Shatter Our Souls with Novari. Today we are continuing Dead Charge, and into Area 2 of the 3 sections of the main game, Neon Nightlife. Now, Neon Nightlife, comparatively to the original area we went to, Hydraulic Highway, tends to have a bit more of a darker aesthetic, along with a bit more of the, well, city style or residential style of background in it, and also adds yet another two new enemies. I don't think I've seen the turrets before, and they have bouncing enemies now. Overall, pretty much similar as far as what I would expect from the games from the prior 2 missions. What really drives home what I've been loving about this game is the fact that every time I pick it up, it feels like there's just a little bit more to explore, a little bit more depth to it that I probably hadn't noticed prior. And one thing that comes to mind is actually how light is viewed within the universe of the game. And to explain that, I kind of have to go to the tutorial section for a couple moments here. So in the tutorial of Dead Charge, you are told that you are to dismantle a robo-terrorist organization. The idea being that, oh yeah, we gotta, fix this and save the world. And right off the bat, Light's self-preservation AI is set to absolute 0, low. Well, set to low. It has no drive to protect itself as long as the mission is complete. Now, while I'm pretty sure the Robots Against Terrorism or whatever organization that we're dealing with had good intentions, at least initially, I also believe that they were a little blunt in their approach to this circumstance. And if they had left a little bit of self-preservation present, Light probably wouldn't have gotten as badly damaged as he did in the prologue. So there is that. But what fascinates me about it is that after that opening, you're effectively left damaged, hurt, and very likely to be destroyed. And your only goal is, oh yeah, I've got to dismantle this while I have the chance, kind of thing. It's actually a really interesting mantra and setup for a game, because for me, most of the time your hero is either extremely powerful, extremely weak, and never anything in between. With the case of Dead Charge, your character is incredibly strong compared to everything else you face, at least by what I've seen so far. You are by far and away significantly stronger than anything else that comes up. However, you also end up in this situation where your characters are more... How do I want to put this? He is incredibly strong, but is limited by the damages that were incurred in the tutorial. This is the big kicker for me, is those damages greatly affected how Light was intended to function during the game as a whole. Now, I have my suspicions that Light Mark II might be easily replaced, just on the basis of, hey, it's a robot, he can be replaced at any time, and maybe that's the point. Low self-preservation during the early mission because, lo and behold, he didn't need it. There was always going to be another robot, another entity to take his place. But there's also the possibility in my mind that once Light ended up on this island, the island that was home to the terrorists, their base of operations, if you will, that he ended up being treated as not necessarily as expendable. He needed to finish the mission however it ended up being. And so, yeah, I kind of feel for the character. He has all the makings of doing something great, but he struggles where it matters most. I don't know. Maybe I'm overlooking this or looking too deep into it. It is a very short game after all. It might not be all that much narrative depth to it. But who knows? Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, the robots against terrorism that I'm going to henceforth call RAT, just because there is no actual name for their organization as a whole that I've found so far. RAT is likely to be a group that wants supremacy of some variety. They definitely don't seem like the type of entity that is willy-nilly about what they dispense and how. Everything has to have a purpose to it. Anywho, that's just me. Oh, Disco. I gotta say, I love the different paths that you can take, because yeah, absolutely, some paths will take you higher, lower, and have different outcomes to them. And that to me is great, because if the game allows for multiple outcomes to happen within a span of a single mission, then it will never get stale. And I think that's something that I've found that bugs me about most platformers, is that it's my way or the highway. They have one set of goals, one set of values that the player is supposed to follow through on, and yet they don't really do a whole lot to emphasize that every player has some slightly different attitude, slightly different build, makeup, whatnot, to make it happen. Anywho, this is now that I've got all of that out of my way, we're going to be doing all of the Neon Nightlife missions today. And the reason why I want to do all of the Neon Nightlife in one go is because when it came to Hydraulic Highway, the first mission took me about 45 minutes to an hour. The third mission took me another 45 minutes. So that section alone took me about 2.5 hours worth of footage. Neon Nightlife, by comparison, only took me an hour. And the reason I think comes down to personal growth and a more confidence in myself and the skills necessary in order to reach different parts of the map. So, with that being said, I believe that most of that problem comes from the fact that I just wasn't as adept at the game. And if I were to replay it now, I'm pretty sure it would take me less than an hour to beat all 3 missions. So take that with a grain of salt, that they're not a significant decline in difficulty, just that I myself have gotten more comfortable with the game as a whole. Anywho, what I'm liking about Neon Nightlife as a set of missions so far is that Neon Nightlife seems to be focused more on residential, more on commercial, more on the world than on a single section of the world as a whole. To put into perspective, the Hydraulic Highway kind of was built to look as though it was the what I would personally consider to be a like a water treatment plant and hydroelectric dam by comparison. This is a set of residential streets, and as you'll see in a second here, businesses. Yeah, it wasn't all that fast that time. I could have done better. Anyways, Act 2 starts with the business sector. Now, if I were to pick a thematic mission that I thought did really well, it would be Neon Nightlife Act 2. See, where Act 2 of Hydraulic Highway I knew where I was and what was expected, Neon Nightlife Act 2 is very clearly set in a particular section of the city, the business district. You have all these charts and graphs in the background that make it show that the individuals in charge of this region know exactly what they're up against. They know exactly what they're doing, and it showcases that there was a lot more planning involved in this whole organization problem. Okay, we're going to just say that didn't happen. But, yeah, cut the camera, Carl, come on. Anywho, Um, Starting back up again, I do like how this mission is set up. It's fast-paced, it allows for destructible environments, which is something that I don't think I've come across as of yet. But it is also showcased that there are shortcuts hidden throughout the map if you know where to look, such as that vent I fell down having a access port above. And so we can use those small hints in order to really dig in and say, hey, this is where we're going, this is what I need to accomplish. My biggest kind of concern with Neon Nightlife is, once again, the camera. Of the 3 coins, one of them is hidden in a place that is off-screen. And while there is an active patch being put through to try to remedy this concern, it's something that hasn't quite made it to the public as of yet. So understand that it is possible to get everything at this moment in time, but you're going to be looking off screen for the second one. With that in mind, let's continue this onward. Is this like a daycare or an... Oh geez. Oh, nice water feature. Kind of looks like an apartment complex to some degree. Overall, I do like this section, and this mission in particular is probably one of my favorites in the game. I have some missions that I think could have used a little more time to cook, but each region so far has felt very distinct from one another as well. With the first act of each mission focusing more on an overworld perspective. The outside of Neon Nightlife, for example, focuses on a street view, the subways, the general path to and from different locations, whereas Act 2 is more Bowser's Castle-esque, where you're going through businesses, buildings, and looking for more specific information than what can be gleaned on a surface level. So there's that going for it. Act 1 of Hydraulic Highway is the infiltration act. Act 2 of Hydraulic Highway is inside the water filtration plant. And this is important in my mind because it showcases that there was time and effort put into making sure that even indoor environments or whatnot have all been taken into account to allow the game to be as realistic and reasonable as can be. I love that the different sections of the game kind of meld together in a way that feels authentic without them being overdone, constantly using the same aesthetic one mission to the next. So overall, I think we're doing pretty okay. So after Neon Nightlife, there was one other major section of the game to go, and that is the Scrap Factory. Scrap Factory is going to be one that I would love to get into today, but I got a lot on my plate as is. So I suppose the real question is, what's the point of each of the missions? Why are we going through everything we go through in Dead Charge in order to complete each mission? My realization of this actually comes from the fact that because we are dealing with a terrorist organization, the goal of finding and shutting down each region is that we are looking effectively for a nuclear power plant of sorts, or nuclear energy, a bomb, if you will. This bomb has one kind of key goal, and that is that it needs to go kablooey, right? If you don't get to the end of the mission in time, that's it. And reality dictates that if you can't get to the bomb or whatnot, that it's going to blow up and destroy a large portion of the world. So Light's entire goal is to shut down that nuclear device. The big kicker and the big problem that I'm running into, based on my understanding, is that we first need to figure out where it is. And so Light's missions all go around to the various corners of this island looking for said nuclear device. And to me, that makes sense. But it takes him through the water treatment facility, it takes him through the quote-unquote scrap factory, which is more of a... how do I want to word it? It's more akin to a trash yard or a light industrial machining company, so to speak. These two sections work in tandem with one another to make the player more aware of their surroundings, what's going on. Now, I have been informed that there are a grand total of 11 main missions. That would mean 7 main missions, storyline focused missions. That's the word I'm going to go with. 3 challenge missions. So overall, I think it's pretty decent. And at $2.75 for a copy, it's really easy to get your hands on and can get it anytime on Steam and or on the Nintendo Switch eShop. Yes, I'm going to be throwing that in every time because this game doesn't get as much love as I think it deserves. Anywho, continuing on, the hydraulic highway major selection location, if you will. That's not good. The major bomb component for the hydraulic highway was within the water treatment facility. We know this. The one for this region is hidden in the sewers. Why? No idea. I'm also heading left because I was trying to figure out if I could find the next piece or the gold coin. So ignore it a little bit. I was trying to see if I could find it and I couldn't. So have fun with it, I guess. That's 2 out of 3. The point of it going into the sewers is actually a really cool idea, in my opinion, because it really leans into this region is intended to be a city facility. Act 3 is more of the same. Or not more of the same. It's more akin to what Act 3 of Hydraulic Highway was. An incredibly tight platforming challenge that gets more difficult the farther you go. And what I really like about the first one was that it was focused on the basics of platforming. Your boosts, your jumps, your wall jumps, enemy placements, etc. were all tied into how you would make it work. And what intrigued me about this, specifically about this specific one, is this one kind of takes part of the autonomy out of the mission and says, hey, yeah, you're now going to deal with all of this consistently. This one is, for lack of better terms, it's an on-rails mission. The goal being to use grind rails, which automatically push you forward, to complete the challenge. Now, this one I feel like it would have been actually better if it was implemented as part of Scrap Factory, because the Scrap Factory section of the world focused a little more heavily on grind rails than any other region in the game. But regardless, this is kind of my introduction to how they work and what speed they travel at. Overall, I think this is actually a pretty reasonable mission. It took me about half an hour to complete, And reality is that half an hour was pretty well spent. Every time I got a little bit further or I ran into the first fire bar, for reasons unexplained, and just had a blast with it. Honestly, these challenge missions, while they are significantly harder in terms of how far you're expected to get into it on any given attempt than the rest of the game, it is also significantly more rewarding to pull off what I would consider to be the perfect run. But hey, that's just my thoughts on it. And if I'm being honest, while I don't necessarily think that the game needs to be harder, more short-form, high-end platforming challenges like this would be an absolute blessing. These were, by far and away, my favorite missions in the game. They're harder, absolutely, but they really showcase what the creator was capable of creating. And I'm gonna give them a high 5 and 5 stars on that. And we had a roasty toasty robot there. So, we now know where the battery is, so we just gotta execute now. Anywho, if you've been enjoying what you've seen and want to see next week the Scrap Factory, drop a like, leave subscribe, and I will be back in next week with more of Dead Charge. And to be honest, I think we only have about 2 episodes left at the current burn rate. And that's kind of disappointing. But be that as it may. With that being said, take care of one another, and I hope you have a good one.